Welcome to Keeping It Real. I'm Krysta Gibson, your host. And this is the series of interviews and chats that I am calling Sages Over 70, Life Secrets from Women Living Full Out. So why am I doing this special series? Well, we live in challenging and stressful times, and I think that's been said over many different time periods, but it seems that this time is particularly critical and just so much going on. And I've heard it said so many times that women are going to save us, that women are the ones who are going to step up and save us from what's going on. And I say yes, I think that that's very true. And I know that as souls, we don't have gender, we're genderless. So speaking about men and women, when you get at the level of soul, a lot of people say, well, it's silly to even talk that way. You know, that is true at the level of soul, but guess what? We're in bodies. And when we're in bodies, we do have gender. And some are men, some are women. And to say that there's not a difference is kind of ludicrous, because we're treated differently from the time we're babies. And this is true in any culture, straight across the board. And so to say that as we grow up and as we navigate society and loving and living and having children, that it's not different for men and for women is really not paying attention. So there is a difference. And there is a difference in how we experience life and how we navigate life. So that's number one. Number two, I find that even though it's 2018 when I'm recording this in September. Now, by the time you're looking at it, it might be 2019, so it's not that far apart. But one of the things I'm still seeing is in spiritual circles, men are still mainly the teachers. And I had something happen fairly recently that is part of the reason I decided to do this, is I went to an event that was interfaith. And there were speakers from 6, 7 different organizations, spiritual groups, religions, whatever label you want to put on it. And they were up on a stage. 6 of them were men. There was 1 woman. And I looked at that and I went, wait a minute, you can't tell me that there aren't wise Jewish women, or there aren't wise Muslim women, wise Christian women. Why is it all still men? And I thought, okay, I'm going to do my little bitty part here, and I am going to seek out wise women, women who have lived and who have done a lot of things, and that they can share with all of us, men, women, and any age. Now, why did I choose 70 and over? Well, number one, I'm 70. That didn't have a lot to do with the decision. But when I look at people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s, what we're looking at is women who have lived through the 1930s, 40s, 50s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s. Look at the richness of that life experience, as opposed to someone who's right now in their 20s or their 30s. Yes, there are many wise young people, and I'm not for a minute saying that just because you've lived a certain length of time, that suddenly makes you wise. That's ludicrous. We all know some people 70 who are not very wise and who we really don't want to listen to. But I had to have some kind of a cutoff, and so I chose 70. So the women I'm going to be visiting with will be in their 70s, 80s, or 90s, and if I can find some in their hundreds, guess what? I'll talk to them too. And the idea of this series is to talk to them about different aspects of living, of the different projects they've done, because some of the women are authors, they're teachers, mothers, they run the gamut, and I'm talking to various cultural groups, various racial groups, so that we can really learn and record some of the experiences and wisdom that these women can teach us. So welcome to Sages Over 70, Life Secrets from Women Living Full Out. And I hope that you enjoy the visiting with these women as much as I'm enjoying having the visits. Thank you for being here. Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is Krysta Gibson. I'm the host of Keeping It Real, and this is our series, Sages Over 70, Women Living Full Out, and my guest is Suzie Daggett. Suzie, welcome.
Thank you, Krysta. I am so happy to be with you on your show. And this is such an important topic because I just turned 71, and I know that things change quite a bit from 60, 65, 68, 70. Oh, then you're suddenly over 70 and you go, am I limited?
Right, right. Yeah, it's interesting. And the thing that I like, and I say in my intro to this whole series, is one of the reasons I'm talking to women over 70, 80s, 90s, it's like, you've lived through the late 40s, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. It's like all these changes. And with that, when you live with awareness, can come great wisdom that you're sharing with us.
Yes, yes. And the point that you said is living with awareness.
Right.
Because you can get to a point when you get a little older that you just go, I'm just old. Well,
right.
Please don't say that.
Don't do that. Don't
say that. Say, I am of an age.
Right.
And then you're accepting your wisdom of what you have to teach others.
Right.
Which you don't know who you're affecting. This is what's so marvelous about life.
Exactly.
A smile at the grocery store to somebody who is just like marginal that day can turn them.
Yes, exactly.
Do it with awareness that you are actually doing that with kindness from your heart.
Right.
That's very different than just going in and saying, I'm so old I have to drape over my grocery cart and can't look at anybody. And that's a simple thing to do.
But profound. I want to jump in because it dawned on me that I didn't tell people that you are a writer and an author, and you've been a publisher. You've written syndicated columns. You're a retired real estate broker. You have a book called From Ego to Soul, which is a wonderful collection of little conversations between you and your soul and higher self and whomever. And then your most recent one I want to mention called The Pink Door, which is about your mom's journey through death. And we're not going to really talk about either of these books per se, but we are going to do a whole show on this one at some point in the near future because there's so much wisdom in here. But I wanted to get that out because what you and I are going to chat about today is this whole idea of doing projects. Because the people watching will... At any time in your life, you've got a project, whether it's finding a new job, starting a business, having a baby, getting married, whatever. And I thought it would be great because I know you've done a lot of projects. I've done a lot of projects. Let's share with people kind of what are some ideas that they can use at the beginning of a project, during a project, and then afterwards. So,
I'm going to start with a project that's near and dear and just past my life. And that's moving. Mm-hmm. Getting rid of stuff.
Yes.
You connected with me about that.
Oh,
because we are moving from our residence our home base of 40 years to another town to be near our children. And that is very heartfelt. They want us there. We want to be there. It's wonderful. But we had to get rid of a lot of stuff. And I find many, many people are having real big issues with being stuck in how to do it.
Right.
So I'll give you some tips. You recognize what's important to you. Fast forward yourself. Say you're 50 and you might have 35 more years to live. Somebody's going to get your stuff.
Right.
If you are not sure if you want it, would they want it?
Right.
If you have oodles of pictures from your mom, who might have been in her 90s, as mine was, and you only recognize three characters in those pictures, who else besides you is going to know anything about that?
Right.
Unless they're historic documents,
right.
And if they are, in our family they were, so we gave them to a museum. The dump wants them. I'm sorry to say this. You can take pictures of ones that mean something to you.
Right, exactly.
Put them on the cloud.
Yep.
If you got a vase from Aunt Fedora, take a picture of it and put it on the cloud and let somebody sell it on some site for you if you're unable to do that.
eBay or whatever, right?
Yes. Find ways to divest what is marginal for you. Stuff that's really important, keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it, because your kids may or may not want it. There's wonderful articles going on out right now in the web about no one wants your grandma's stuff.
Right, right.
And many times they don't.
Right.
If you have silver, real silver,
mm-hmm.
very few people want it,
mm-hmm.
because we don't have servants to take care of it any longer.
That's right. We have to do it ourselves.
And we're not doing that because we're not dealing with that level of living.
Right.
Dealing with a different level. We're dealing with the IKEA level of living.
Right.
Rather than the beauty. Some
mm-hmm.
still are, but most are not. But you might have beautiful antiques. Do you want them? Maybe.
Right. And maybe not. What's interesting for me and you is when I saw that blog or article that you wrote about your move, and one of the reasons that I connected was I'm a little behind you on that, because I'm at the point where I've lived in the same house with my partner for 24 years, and we are looking at moving. So I'm beginning to look at all of my stuff differently. And, and so I think one of the things I'd like to share with people, I think initially when you're looking at any project, whether it's moving, going through your stuff, starting a business, whatever, you can go through that momentary state of overwhelm.
Absolutely.
Where you're like, oh my God, what was I thinking to start my own business? Or what was I thinking that I wanted to have a baby or get married or whatever it is? And to learn, okay, how can you deal with the overwhelm? And for me, it's about sitting down and making a plan. Now, I don't know about you.
For me, it's a little different. I'm not a very big planner. I jump into things. When I started publishing the Insight Directory, I said, how hard can it be? Not even having a clue how hard it is.
Right.
I learned and I did fine. But that's because of my personality.
Right.
So when I start a project, I kind of look at the overall picture, mm-hmm. because I'm an overall picture person. I'm not a specific. So you're probably more of a specific person because you have to be for the business that you have.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I'm not in the publishing business any longer, but when I was in the lecture business and I brought in big name people to different places, I had to be very specific, which is not in my best mind. Right. So what you do is you find people who can help you, mm-hmm. whether it's moving. And I had a gal who was a friend and neighbor, and she would come and she'd say, send to the thrift store, or maybe. So you have 3 piles. Mm-hmm. And I tested my intuition because I'm very intuitive, and I would just immediate keep. And then if there was something that was just like a little niggly, like, that's the maybe pile.
Right.
The thrift store pile was gigantic.
Yes.
It continued to be gigantic during the whole time because we all have too much of everything.
Right.
We all do.
Right. And I'm doing that. I've for a year now. I've been going in when I can with my work schedule, going through closets and drawers and letting go of things. That you really have to look at them, like you say. There's some where it's an immediate no. Why did I ever keep it? And then the other is like, it's still kind of precious, so not quite ready yet. And then the others is, wow, this is really cool. I'd love to give this away. And I'm giving some things to friends. Like we have our Good Company lunch once a month in Monroe, and I bring some of those things to the lunch and say, does anybody want this?
Yes.
And then if anything people don't want, then I take it to the Goodwill. Yeah.
Right. And I did that as Mom was passing. People who had come to help her over the years.
Right.
They had a special spot for her and she for them. And I'd say, just go in there and choose something of hers. She would love for you to have it. And one gal picked something up and she said, really? I said, that is yours. And it meant so much to her. Right. It didn't have any meaning for me any longer. Mm-hmm. And Mom was on her way out. So it wasn't going to have any meaning for her.
Right.
I also consistently asked my children, I have 2 kids, 2 adult kids and a daughter-in-law. I would text them with a picture. Here is Aunt so-and-so's or Uncle so-and-so's things. Do you want that? Here's your grandpa's tool collection.
Right. Yeah.
And many times I'd get the look like, Mom. And then sometimes I'd get that's cool.
Uh-huh.
We don't know what's going to connect to somebody else.
Right.
So what you're doing and taking things to a luncheon is absolutely beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I could suggest that people who want a project that don't know what they're doing, like that, invite their friends over and say, I know you've always loved this necklace.
Right.
I don't have a use for it any longer.
Right. Who would like it?
Yeah, and they will love it.
Right.
And so what you're doing is you're giving and receiving at the same time.
Right.
And so you go through any process of starting a new business or whatever it is, you're going to give yourself over to the business 100%. And it can get scary, scary, scary at times.
Right. But I think what you said is true about having help. And again, wherever it is. And I know some people are right away going to say, well, I can't afford help, whatever. But there are lots of ways that you can get help that don't cost money. And like you say, reach out to your friends, to your family. I've told people who are like just starting out giving classes, who aren't really sure what they want to do, offer the class in your home free to 4 or 5 of your friends. Just have them come over, get their feedback. That's a wealth of information for you that all it costs you is your time, effort, some coffee, tea, maybe some cookies, But whatever you're doing, you can find ways to reach out and get help and support for whatever it is you're trying to do. And I think you're right. That's a very key step.
And you can also do trades with people.
Yes.
People forget about the wonderfulness of trades. If you are a massage therapist, though, you have to be careful that you're not giving away everything as a trade because you will get it back.
Right.
But if you are somebody who is doing something that has an overarching message to many, trading is fabulous. People want to be asked. This is what we forget. People want to be part of your process.
Right. Yes, people do like that.
If you're the one setting up the business, you're the leader.
Right.
And they want to know how they might be able to help you.
Right.
You might forget to say, well, here's how you can do it. Or you might forget to reach out. But you can reach out whether you're moving, whether you're having a new baby. And I was an old mom. I had my first at 40 and my second at 45. So I was like the grandma mom. Right?
Yeah, really. Right.
And, but I reached out to people and I had a really good support group. And when my kids were older and I was the oldest mom and everything, I never acted like, okay, I'm 12 years older than all of you.
Right.
I kept dyeing my hair until I didn't need to any longer.
So let's talk about during a project. So people have got it started. Because one of the things that I find with a project, whether it's me or people I've observed, it seems that there comes a point, okay, you've got the ball rolling, you're going along nicely, and there seems to come a point where you lose steam. And you either start doubting yourself, why the heck did I ever do this? It's not going to work, where you really fall into that negative pit. So I'd like to give people some tips. How do you deal with, when you lose your focus, you lose your determination, you lose your intention, and you're in the middle of the process? What do you do? Do you have some ideas on that?
Sometimes you have to nix a business if it's not going well.
True.
You have to be smart enough to, I did this I was going to do a conference, and I recognized all of a sudden I didn't have a big enough email list. I wasn't going to attract the 300 people I needed to make it monetarily successful.
Right.
Why would I go through that agony?
Right.
It's because I know how to do it. That's not a reason.
Right.
That is not a reason. You have to step back and you have to look at the things. You have to start praying to whoever you pray to or meditate or take a walk. Whenever I got into a real tizzy of the downward spiral, I walk out the door, I get out in nature, I change my mind by being in a different environment. If you're sitting in front of your computer all the time, that's all you're going to be doing, and you're going to get stuck.
Right.
But you can take a 10-minute break.
Right, exactly.
It's allowed. And then when you do that, you're actually physically changing the structure of what's going on in your brain.
Right.
When you get back to the computer, you might go, ding, there's a good idea that I hadn't thought of before.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and when I come to a spot like that, I sit back kind of like what you were saying, and I reevaluate everything. I kind of just say, okay, wait a minute, maybe this is a message. I need to reevaluate what I'm doing, or I need to reevaluate how I'm doing it. But I need to step back, if I've fallen into that pit. And taking a walk in nature, getting away from it all, taking a day off if you can, and just go play. Watch a few movies, watch some whatever, just shake yourself up and then come back. Or again, that thing of reaching out to other people. That can be really helpful. What have others done, and what do others think about the process that you're in? And get that input can be really helpful to helping you regain your focus, or like you say, sometimes you let it go and move on to something else.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to call somebody in authority. So they could reach out to you and say, Krysta, I am having an issue. I think I'm doing this. My intention was this. The energy pooped out. Do you have any advice? And in 5 minutes, you would probably give me something that I could hold on to.
Right.
What would be my fear in that? Is reaching out to you. Right. Because you're an authority, and I think I'm an authority, but suddenly I'm an authority that's dropped.
Right.
But I can still reach out, and that could be to a friend or a neighbor or your partner. You can reach out. You have to say the words. Nobody knows the stress, distress, or evolution that you're in.
Right. And I'd like to point out that you can also do it with books. Let's say it's the middle of the night, which I don't work in the middle of the night, but some people do. Pull out a book like this, like your book, or other ones, and just do, where you open a page, you just pray and say, give me some inspiration. And you open a page, read it, and you go, oh my gosh.
Yeah. When I was in real estate, and this was 100,000 years ago or so, but I would have an issue where we live in an area with septic tanks, and so I'd have an issue with the septic tank. Right. I could never solve it during the day, and I would always sleep on it at night, and in the morning there was an answer.
Yes.
And so, you've heard sleep on it at night. Don't make a decision if you're unclear.
Right.
And so when you go to sleep, say, I give up. I don't know what's going to happen here, because you're not in control.
Right.
Surprise. But the universe may have a wonderful, wonderful message for you that will take you, instead of this direction, it'll take you slightly over here, which is the right direction. Exactly. And then the project, the work, whatever, gets realized in a different way, and it's a better way. It's always a better way, but what gets in our way is our self-doubt.
Right.
I'm not enough.
Right. Yes. And I think that sense of detachment, and that sense, I like to say it, the way I like to say it is, you can give up being the general manager of the universe.
Really?
Because we carry so much on our shoulders, and we feel like we have to manage the whole universe. And it's like, no, you don't. And there are powers that be can support you and help you, but we have to get out of the way. And that's part of what you're saying. Get away from it. Sleep on it. Allow that answer to float in intuitionally, or however might be written on the side of a bus. I mean, I've had that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you have to give up your need to know.
Yes.
When we just went through this huge escrow that we did, there were several parties involved. It was a little complicated. Each one of us held the intention it was going to work out. The realtors looked at us like, are you guys crazy? All held that attention. We say, this is goofy. We don't understand why this is happening this way. Right. We all held that intention. Right. And it wasn't fake intention. It was firmly rooted in our hearts.
Right.
That it was going to work out. Did it work out exactly the way we thought? Not quite, but it worked out. And then there were gifts from the universe beyond it that we would never have figured out. But we had to give up the need to know.
Yes.
And that happens in business too.
Yep.
You think you need to know everything, but you can't, because you're not the center of the universe. Right. You're not the controller of the universe.
Right.
But you're the receiver of what's out there when you allow that to be.
Exactly. So let's talk for a minute about the ending of a project. And how projects can end is you can succeed and just continue on with whatever that project is, or you can quote unquote fail.
Yes, you can.
The project doesn't work, or it can be changed. But I think one of the things that I personally am challenged with and that I really have to be more conscious of, I don't celebrate successes enough. You know, when
Yeah.
something good, like I'm working on a project and it works out, it's like, okay, now moving on to the next. And it's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, stop and celebrate that. So number one, I think it's really important to celebrate even tiny little successes.
It is, and you hear that from people you run into in the street, and they'll say, "Thank you for your magazine. Thank you for that online article." And you
Right.
go, "Oh, yeah." You just go, "Oh, yeah, yeah." No, you go, "You're welcome.
Wow, thank you.
You're
Yes.
welcome." You take, but receiving, that's another thing about receiving. We're
Right.
used to giving, and we don't receive well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes you have to receive from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at the end of, I had to sell, I didn't have to sell I chose to sell my publishing business because I was done.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're done and you know it, get help, find a buyer,
Right.
and
Right.
sell it.
Right.
Whatever they do with it is their business. And this is where you have to detach.
Oh.
Because in our little small community, people come and say, and I go, haven't they done something nice? Because they did it differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's not up to me to say what they could have done with something I started.
Right. Right.
You sell your business, it'll be the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can sell a business.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do blue sky, but you can sell a business.
Right.
You can make a decision to say, enough.
Mm-hmm.
I'm changing the direction.
Right.
It has to be very conscious, and if it's your main stream of income, you really need to think it through carefully.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do afterwards?
Right.
What happens during the void?
Right. Right.
Because there will be a void.
That's right. Yeah. What's your next step?
Yeah, that void can be deadly, and it happens a lot to people who are in their I hate that word, in their years beyond high productive years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They've entered a void where they've lost their purpose because they used to be an accountant, they used to be this, they used to be that, and now they don't know what they are or who they are.
Right.
And they've lost their sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, our culture, we define ourselves by what we do. I mean, Isn't that true? You meet somebody, and one of the first questions that happens is, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a counselor, I'm a publisher, I'm a real estate, whatever. And unfortunately, in this culture, that's how we're defined, rather than, I'm Krysta.
Yeah. Or you can say,
You know?
I'm Suzie and I'm semi-retired and I like to do whatever I want to do.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
free and easy.
Exactly.
If I want to write a book, I will. If I don't, hey,
Exactly. And I think that's important. Even if I think especially if you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, you're younger, is start learning to define yourself as more than your career, as more than the way you earn money. Learn to define yourself in a much broader way, because that's going to help you down the line when you inevitably do change fields, or maybe where you're working, they aren't doing that anymore, and suddenly you don't have a career because they quit making widgets and you were a widget maker.
And you can bring in different values of who you are. You can say, I'm a creative.
Right.
Now, what does that mean?
Right.
A creative is many things. You could be an artist.
Mm-hmm.
You could be a body mover.
Yep.
You could be somebody who walks and you walk creatively.
Right.
You could be a writer. You could be somebody who's just curious about life.
Right.
That's creativity.
Right.
Yes. So you can bring a value in. You can say, I just like to live my journey. I like to live who I am.
Right.
You can often have conversations with people like that, though, because you don't know where they stand on the realm of consciousness.
Right.
And there's many realms.
Right. Right. But you can say something like, I'm a creative, I'm very creative, and right now the way I'm expressing that is I'm a counselor and I work with blah, blah, blah. Or right now I'm a creative and I'm building a house. Mm-hmm. So you can move to what your current profession is, but you can put it in much broader terms. It's like you were saying at the beginning, how you look at the big picture and then bring it down to specifics, which I do that too. And I think in life, that's the way to look at it is, here's who I am in the big picture, and in the little picture right now, I happen to be doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Because we are all unique, wonderful individuals. There's no two of us alike, even identicals.
Right.
They are not alike.
Not the same. That's right.
They're not alike. So your uniqueness shines because of you, because of your smile and your face and your openness and your ability to connect with people.
Right.
Somebody else's uniqueness might be to hide and be, write poetry and be a very gentle, quiet spirit, because that suits them. They don't need to be you. They don't need to be me.
Right.
They need to be themselves. And so somebody might say, well, what do you do? And you might just, if you're a real quiet person, you might say, well, I really enjoy my quiet time. You don't need to explain who you are.
Right. You can be a little mysterious.
Yeah, you can be. And you have to be involved in that inner relationship with yourself to feel good about who you are and what you do in life.
Right.
Because at the very, very end, it comes down to, are you content? Nobody ever says at the end of their life, boy, I wish I had more money in my 401k. That does not happen.
Right.
It doesn't happen. They might say, I wish I was kinder.
Right.
Or, darn it, I missed that opportunity. Or, man, is this a journey?
Yeah. I wish I had learned too. I wish I had gone on that trip to wherever that I didn't go. Well, we're coming close to the end of our time, so I want to kind of sum this all up. Like if you were talking to this person, how would you end like a conversation with them? What would you say to them as you send them on their way?
I would ask them to really, really do a plus and minus sheet on their highest potentials that they feel right now, what they're going to offer. And this comes back to intention.
Right.
But intention with a little more specificity. So if you are somebody who likes to talk and likes to be visual, like you are on your show, you might want to start a YouTube channel. And then they're going to put all that's not going to work in front of it.
Right.
But it will work.
Right.
If you have the sensibility to think it through, get the help you need. I couldn't do a YouTube channel if I needed to, but if I ask my kids, they go, hey, Mom, this is what you do.
Right.
So you somebody who's a younger,
right.
who knows what's going on,
right.
and you do something. But you've got to start with where you are. What's most important to you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How does your purpose lie within you?
Right.
Not for the outer world. The outer world will be attracted to you once you find that part of you.
Right. Beautiful. I really like that. And I agree with you. And it really is about having your intention, be willing to focus, and be willing to get in there and, I find, do whatever it takes. But also, and I think we have kind of failed to mention this, it just hit me, have fun. We didn't really get into that, but it's like, as I've gotten older, I realize I need to remember to have fun, especially these days. Everything is so darn serious that you can go around with a big old frown on your face half the time, and it's like, lighten up and have some fun, whatever that means to you.
I think that means smile more, be more in your body,
right.
Not out there in the heady world.
Right.
You're not going to change anything politically. Mm-hmm. I have to tell you. You can help, but you're not going to make the big change. Mm-hmm. Everybody please vote. Whatever you want,
right,
you vote.
Right, yes.
But you have to be centered in yourself. And then once you are centered in yourself, people will look at you and say, what does she have I don't have? Mm-hmm. What you have is you have a sense of self that's radiating out, and that continues to help you with your purpose no matter whether you fail, which is also a learning,
right,
or whether you're magnificently successful.
Right.
It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's all a teaching.
Thank you, Suzie. I am so glad that you could visit with us today. I really have treasured our time together and wish you the very best in whatever your next project might be as you move forward.
Yes. Thank you, Krysta, and thank you, audience. And I look forward to visiting again when the time is right.
Sounds good, Suzie. Bye now.
Bye now.